It's Monday, you know what that means. It's the second look with myself, Sam Davis.
And me, Tom Jordan.
This is Back of the Net. We're an AFC Bournemouth fan channel, so there are a couple of things that you can do.
Like the video, make sure you do that straight away, and then click the subscribe button while you're there, and then you'll be linked in with us, and then if you click the bell, you'll even know when our videos are there. So yeah, what more do you want? So get cracking.
So Boscombe started off their Premier League campaign with a draw at the weekend, and it was West Ham who were our opponents. We didn't really know how we would go into it, what players we'd have available. We didn't particularly know what players they'd have either, with big players leaving for them, new players getting over the line, but some not in time. And at full time, I've got to say, Tom, I'm not really sure how I really felt, but I mean, it's not a loss, and yeah, I suppose I'm happy with a point.
Yeah, I think it's important to make sure we didn't lose that first game, particularly with the fixtures coming up. I think the mood was decent because of the fact that we were the team that got the equaliser, and we were the team that looked the more likely to get the winner at the end. I think that first kind of hour, they were probably edging it. But as soon as they got the goal, then we were well on top. And yeah, like I say, I thought we were the team that wanted the game to continue, whereas they wanted the game to end. So yeah, I think that's why there were some positives. But I think, yeah, considering the amount of players we've got out, Bar and Declan Rice, who's obviously a top player, they all know how each other play. So they should have been going into it a little bit clearer. And yeah, and we made sure we didn't lose the game. So that's the main thing.
Well, we're pleased to announce that this season, Back of the Net is sponsored by Green King Sport, where football is more than a game.
Green King Sport venues are showing every single televised Bournemouth fixture over the 23-24 season.
And with more than 900 sports pubs across the UK, it doesn't matter whether you're based in Bournemouth or Barnsley, you can catch every single minute of the action.
Keep an eye out during the season for events, offers, content and competitions that put you closer to the action.
So, of course, Cherries, we had the 3 p.m. kick-off for the first game of the season, but if you're not at the ground for the first few weeks, then why not catch the rest of the Premier League action on TNT and Sky Sports at your local Green King pub? Right, onto the game itself then.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think most of us were fairly satisfied. There were a few people that were a little bit disappointed that we couldn't have been more clinical in our moments, but then we sort of got away with it as well. So maybe a draw's probably a fair reaction. I think at one point, Tom, we were 6th in the league or something like that on Saturday after some of the games had finished. Yeah. But now we're 9th, just on the cusp of Europe. Tables don't mean anything at this stage. But what was it like to be back, mate? So good to be back.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, it was a nice little buzz around the place. It was really good. I think that'll only continue when we get a few more bodies through the door and also some of the injured players back. But yeah, first and foremost, it was just great to be back in there, see some familiar faces, and yeah, get back to what a lot of us call our second home. So yeah, it was really nice, mate. And yeah, and I think it was just, I think that we'll get onto it, but I think the start of the game was a little bit nervy from us, but I do think we grew into the game, and that was important.
Some people have been saying that the once they got in there, because there were queues outside the North Stand, at about 2:50 there were queues as far as the gate on Thistlebarrow Road. So I was thinking, are they going to get through this many people? Thankfully, I think most people did make it. But once they were in, people were saying the music's too loud. And also there was this trumpet of the Great Escape that was going on as well. We're mixing it up, obviously, but I quite like the pre-match vibe, and having the DJ is something different as well. But yeah, there was certainly, the atmosphere was building on it.
Yeah, I've seen that as well. I've seen that kind of music too loud, but also I've seen a lot of people liking the trumpets and stuff. But yeah, I was one of the ones in the queue. I didn't get to hear any of that, but I kind of missed that. And yeah, I've seen a few people was saying about how long it takes to get in, saying people going, well, I was in it just after 2 and it was fine. Well, if everyone done that, then there'd be massive queues, wouldn't there? and also, I'm not going in there at 2 and spending that much money on a pint and standing in the Crown Concourse, personally. But to be fair, I'm not going to put it all on kind of staffing and stuff, because there's a few times where you're in this queue for ages, then you get to the front and there's people are taking stuff out the front. Well, get prepared. Yeah. I was walking up with my hat off and my bag in my hand, just so make it easier for them. But yeah, it was first game of the season. I expect there to be bits of queues. But yeah, I think they're, as you said, mate, they're trying to try different things. It's all trial and error in it to try and vamp up the atmosphere a little bit. So it's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. So yeah, it started at 3 o'clock. An hour before that, we were at the Brunswick having a beer, and then saw the team news, and there were murmurings of particular players not looking like they're warming up, and that was confirmed when we saw the team, and there were some notable absences, weren't there?
There were. Lewis Cook was obviously... I feel for the guy because he's had a good pre-season. He probably knows that because we haven't signed a player in that role, he could try and cement himself in that midfield position, and he obviously picks up a knock, which is a shame.
Is it anything serious?
Doesn't sound like it. It sounds like Dongo Watara, who was the other one out, is more serious. He was seen in a boot.
Yeah.
But I still think it's only weeks rather than months.
Yeah.
And things like that, you look at it, it looks horrifying when you see him in a boot, but it's just protective. It's just to make sure, but a promising thing was that Max Aarons was obviously deemed in a place to be able to start the game, which was important for us. I'm not sure if that was also partly because of Dungo's injury. It meant that Anthony needed to play wide particularly, and maybe he was going to play right back. I'm not sure, but that was promising. And it was a shame to lose Lewis because there wasn't a natural defensive midfield player in there. For them, I think it was pretty much as I expected. We spoke in the preview that Paqueta was one that was going to go one way or the other, and obviously they decided that he was in the right headspace to play the game. And then I just got the goalkeeper wrong, which was interesting. They've obviously decided that to put it on Iraola rather than Fabianski this season, which I'm sure Chris Temple and co didn't enjoy because the manager of Iraola,
I was about to say,
and their goalkeeper of Areola must have been an absolute nightmare. Having said, also with Philip on the back of Phil Bill's shirt was, must have been a nice way to start the season for Temple and co.
And that was all for personal reasons.
Yeah.
So Philip is the man from now on. Were you happy with the side?
Yeah, I think considering the players we had out, I think there's probably, in hindsight, as I'm sure we'll go on to, maybe Clivert could have had a start. But I was quite happy with it for what we had available. You look at the suspension, no disrespect, but there's people like James Hill, Ben Greenwood, Gavin Kilkenny on there, which shows that we're still a little bit light with the injuries. Can't believe how many injuries we've got considering we haven't had a competitive game yet. It was crazy. But we put a decent 11 out and, I was thinking, let's see how Rothwell does in that deeper role. Well, we found out and he done pretty well.
Yeah, right. So you were sat in the North Stand, right?
Of course.
Me and Tiggs were sat in the main stand, and I put him in charge of getting the tickets.
Yep.
Shame on you, Tiggs. We got a ticket in row C, so it's quite sort of close to the action. So if you're looking at the pitch, behind the away dugout, but a bit to the right.
Yep.
But what I didn't realise, and people who've watched the Matchday vlogs will notice this, I had to look through the side wall of the dugout to even see the goal. Couldn't see the corner flag, because if I stood up, I'm talking about the far corner flag in front of the North Stand, between the North Stand and the main stand, had to stand up and then annoy the people behind. 50 quid, restricted ticket.
That is crazy.
I mean, it does say restricted view. Maybe they can be like, well, yeah, but you're closer to
That's
David
what I
Moyes
think,
and co. But 50 quid for that view, I was like, oh.
So obviously we'll go on to it, but later in the game, our goal, is that quite difficult for you to see when they go through on goal?
I didn't actually see the ball hit the back of the net.
You can tell, yeah.
I could sort of see something going on. So there was me hoping that all the action would be in the first half, because I had a great view of the goal in front of the Ted Mac, but North Stand, absolutely appalling. But anyway, I got to see the main bulk of the action, and my opinion was it was a bit drab, really. The first half wasn't that great. I thought the West Ham were probably the better side, actually.
They were definitely the better side in the first half. I think what was difficult, a few people have said it, and I thought it was a good point, because we've obviously gone into this high pressing and rock and roll football. It's very difficult to press a team that haven't got the ball.
Yeah.
So they weren't able to be pressed because they wanted us to have the ball. You could see that. Clearly Moyes thought about that. He thought, we don't want to have the ball. They'll press us, make it difficult. Let them have it, and we'll cause the problems on the counter and in transitions. And they did that. They had that early chance that hit the post.
Souček.
Yeah, and if Antonio had read it a bit better, he could have got the end of it. And luckily it fell straight to Neto, didn't it? But that was too easy for him, and that was a let-off. They weren't all over us, but they edged it. And I was, put it this way, I was happy to go in half-time 0-0, definitely. I think Brooksy had a snapshot, but apart from that, there wasn't much, was it?
Yeah, there was Christie that had a really low shot that didn't really trouble the keeper. And there were a few moments where we played the ball direct. I think Zabani at one stage played Solanke in, and he was inches from it before Zuma then made a last-ditch clearance. But other than that, not much at all. As you say, Phil was in the right place at the right time.
Yes, on the line, yeah.
But yeah, I was 45 minutes. It sort of went very quickly, but there wasn't much to write home about. But you could see, more so in the second half, I've got to say, but you could see that there were some formational differences.
Yeah, definitely, and there were some patterns that were we all know that this is not going to just happen overnight, particularly when Andoli hasn't got the players or the players in the positions he wants them to be in. It's a bit of a nightmare for him. He's probably talking to Rothwell about playing this pressing role, and now he's going, you've got to play DM now because of injuries and not getting bodies in. So yeah, it's always gonna take some time. But there were some nice patterns. It was we were trying to play on the front foot a little bit more, but yeah, we probably just didn't get it all clicking right. So to come in to not concede a goal was important when we didn't play well. That was definitely a positive. I was still a little bit nervy from the corners. So there was a few, and they still win that first flick on nearly all the time, which was worrying. But we didn't concede from a set piece, which was nice.
And our corners weren't overly great either, were
crosses
they?
In, can
I
we?
know it's usually always clear, but I think David Brooks in the second half, he put in a fairly decent corner, which we been better positioned, someone might have got on the end of it. But other than that, something that hopefully they work on. So with the first half not being overly different from what we saw last time, of course we weren't expecting this massive change straight away. And there've been tweets that have said sort of Rome wasn't built in a day and all this kind of stuff, which I completely agree with. But sort of did remind me of some performances last season, and then that led me to sort of research. Now we're talking about the match as a whole. We know the possession stats. We had more possession than West Ham. Do you know the only other home game this calendar year where we've had more possession than the opposition?
Go on.
West Ham United.
When we lost 4-0.
When we lost 4-0. And we'll take a look at these stats on screen now, actually. Now, this is the whole match. On the left, you can see our stats from the most recent game, and then the one where we lost 4-0. And just looking at it, there's not a massive difference between them, mate, really.
Barely any difference. That's what I mean. There was a lot of people saying, look how much better it is because we have so much more possession. No, we actually had slightly more when we lost 4-0. So that's clear. I think you need to look at West Ham a little bit more there.
Exactly, that's the focus, yeah.
And that's why they're frustrated that, as I say, I was skipping ahead a little bit, but that's what a lot of West Ham fans were saying to me is exactly what happened. As soon as they do nick a goal, they do sit back and they're very much a team that lets the other team have the ball and try and pick moments, and that was quite evident. But yeah, they're a team that let you have the ball, so I don't think you can read too much into that one. It'll be interesting when we play some of the teams coming up. But it was an interesting. I certainly didn't think we had that much possession when we lost 4-0, but it says a lot.
I thought the ref seemed to let a lot go.
Yeah,
I think when watching the Luton-Brighton game on Match of the Day, I think the Luton fans could have done with having our ref after he gave away a penalty for Brighton, which seemed to the naked eye quite soft. But he seemed to let a lot go. Sometimes that works well, but I don't know. It seemed to favour West Ham more than it did us, put it that way, because there are a lot of irate Bournemouth fans. But second half, we were a lot different. We were better, playing with more intensity. And then we started to see the qualities of certain individuals. Yeah. I'm talking like Kirkes. I'm talking like Joe Rothwell, who was very effective. There was a moment where he wasn't so, but... Yeah. I mean, the first big chance came from David Brooks, didn't it?
Just before their goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, just before their goal with, really good spell of possession. And then the ball just fell nicely after a clearance that went wrong really for West Ham, and the technique on that, brilliant. He was almost walking backwards, and what a left foot.
Yeah, that is not easy to keep down.
Almost too good a contact, really.
Yeah, in a weird way. Yeah, if he kind of like scuffs it into the ground, it might cause more problems. But yeah, it really shows his technical quality. But yeah, that was kind of the first big moment we had, seemed to lift the crowd. But then it felt like, I think it was about a minute after, wasn't it, that they went and took the lead.
West Ham pushed, and Joe Rothwell was trying to dribble it out.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, Joe Rothwell got the man of the match on the day. I think on AFC Bournemouth's Twitter, Kirkes edged it. Yeah. He was my man of the match, actually. And don't get me wrong, I thought Joe Rothwell was absolutely sensational all game. But if they score one goal and it's because of a mistake from a certain player, then you can't give him man of the match, in my opinion. But it's not his fault the way they finished it. Unbelievable.
The world of a strike, yeah.
World of a strike, but... he's just a little bit naive. I mean, he said himself after the game that I need to try and rectify my mistake. He knows it was his mistake, but as I say, I thought he was brilliant. But yeah, they caught us, and Joe Rothwell, Jared Bowen, with an unbelievable... I mean, it's just an unbelievable strike. You can't do much about that. And he's got that bit of quality. And then I was starting to think, oh dear, we've missed that chance from Brooksy, and they've taken a lead that they probably just about deserved. How can we address this? And quite quickly, I felt the response was there. That was
it was. I remember the first chance was when Max Aarons had the ball and played this kind of low ball through the channel, and Dom Solanke running onto it. And from my angle obviously being so poor, I couldn't really tell how good a chance it was, but it was a chance, and he worked the keeper well. Really good that.
It was the only thing he could do was try and sneak it in that near post, and the keeper knew that he couldn't hit it across. It would have just gone straight across the goal, and no one would have been there. So yeah, but a lovely ball from Aarons. It reminded me of. Do you remember I think it was the 4-0 against Chelsea. Nathaniel Klein played that little ball.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And then I think it was King laid it off Stanislas. But yeah, really, really nice ball. And Don was causing them problems. But yeah, it was nice to see as soon as they score, we seemed to lift it a little bit and have that kind of instant reaction. And then one enforced, but then, a few little changes seemed to help us as well.
Yeah, so Senesi, he looked like he was struggling a little bit, but it just turned out to be cramp.
Yeah, that's what Andoni said, yeah.
Yeah, and then Jayden Anthony as well. I didn't think he was particularly great. I was quite troubled. That's probably an overreaction, but watching the fan cams, Paul Kenwood, what? There are a few people that said Anthony had a good game. He did all right, but I wouldn't put it in the good bracket. I just think it was pretty average, if not below par.
Yeah, I think Jayden would say he wasn't happy with his performance. I mean, Jaden's a great player, and I do think there's some context to this. He's had to play fullback in the last game. Probably don't know where he's playing. He's probably even, because we didn't know that, then the gaffer probably wouldn't have known when Aarons was coming in. So he's probably been planning a week to play fullback.
Absolutely.
So I don't know how much he's actually played with Kirkes either. But he just didn't have it wasn't absolutely horrific, but I think if you looked at the whole team and had to pick someone that was under par, it was Jayden. And that's why, barring the, obviously Senesi had to come off, that was always going to be the first change. Justin Clyde was there, so that made sense. Was a good change. And then shortly after that, Christie looked like he was playing brilliantly, I thought. But he has had a knock recently, and he looked like he just ran his race. And I think it was the right thing to do, to just get Kiefer on, just to occupy the centre halves, to let Dom have a bit more room and take the incentive, really. And yeah, nice that only just over 10 minutes after they take the lead, we're putting an next striker on and going for it. I like that.
We hit the bar, mate. Joe Rothwell,
yeah,
that little feint, and then he cuts it on his right foot, and I was expecting the net to bulge, but just put a little bit too much height on it. But
he ain't got a Bournemouth goal yet, has he? So yeah, that wouldn't have been a nice way to start. But yeah, I think he showed some technical quality, and as I say, he was brilliant, and
he was like proper box to box, wasn't he? I thought.
Yeah, well, especially when they scored, he was obviously given a little bit more of a licence then to try and get forward. But I just like that. When he got it in them deeper roles,
drives forward with the ball a lot.
His first thought was forward.
Yeah, I thought it was really good.
Whereas sometimes in that role, I mean, Lermo, who's obviously my favourite, had a good game, by the way, for Palace. Them sort of players, their first thought sometimes is just to keep the ball, keep it ticking. But
and look out wide.
Yeah, but because Rothwell's naturally used to playing a bit further forward, he was definitely thinking more forward thinking, which helped him once we went a goal down, definitely.
So I don't think it would be necessarily a problem if we were to utilise him in that position. I know that we've had players out and maybe that was enforced, but you put him there and he's naturally looking to drive forward with it, which I kind of like. He's got the confidence to do that. I'm sure it'd be different against other teams.
That's what I mean. In certain games at home, I think that can work, and I think that was good to be able to see that, and also Lewis Cook. But I think there's going to be a few games, particularly away from home, against some of your big boys, where we just need a little bit more of a nasty He's got
quite a bit of pace on him.
Yeah, I thought he looked good. He looked fresh. We've got to realise that since Joe's really been here, I don't think he's ever been 100% fit. And I think we're starting to see, hopefully, him get a little bit fitter and he'll consistently get into the team now. So hopefully, because he performed really well. And then obviously we made the other couple of subs, which I thought helped as well. I mean, obviously James Hill just come on because Aarons, I felt he was always going to come off at some point. But good to see Hill get his Premier League debut, sorry. And then Brooksy was playing well, but he chucked Semenyo on, and I thought he'd play Traore actually. Brought Semenyo on, I thought we hadn't even had a pre-season, and don't expect much from this guy. Whew, what a cameo!
But technically, quality-wise, I didn't think he was unbelievable on the ball, but he's just a bit of a bully. Yeah, probably more how Kiefer should be, really. Yeah, maybe. And he just puts his body about, and he never really lost the ball, but he just made himself. He just made himself impactful by being in the right place, right time. Really good link-up play at times, and obviously at the right sort of moment, which we'll come on to, he put in that cross-come shot. It was a shot, but I thought he was really good, and it's almost like a plan B to bring him on.
Yeah, and I think I'll tell you someone. I'll see if you know what I mean. I think Anton's a better player, but. Sometimes where you just need to bring a player on that gives a bit of energy. You're not really sure what he's going to do, and it just lifts the crowd a little bit. List Mousset.
I thought he was going to say.
So he had a run for a while I can't remember how many games it was, where every time he come off the bench, we'd come back.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes you just need a player that's just going to get you off your seat. I always felt like Sriki Dembele could be that sort of player, and he was at times. Smaller sample size, but Antoine he just looked like he had no fear, and like you say, and he was given probably a little bit more of a licence. One, because we were 1-0 down, and he's also used to playing up top, but also because Hill's come on, he's not really going to bomb on, so he could just kind of worry about that. And I just thought he had a really good cameo. And then also with Kiefer, who wasn't brilliant, he occupies a centre half, which allows Dom to get a bit more room, which ends up with us scoring.
So we had Cliver on the pitch, we had Moore on the pitch, we had Solanke on the pitch, we had Semenyo on the pitch, we had Phil on the pitch still. Yeah. He was going for it, wasn't he?
Yeah. And Kirkes was bombing on as well.
Kirkes was bombing on as well. And we can come on to individual performances, I'm certain. But Semenyo, right place, right time, and putting a shot after. There was a bit of space that I think the ball sort of rebounded back to him.
I think it just clicked off Souček, which allowed Dom to sneak in. But right place, right time, and you'll never know. But this was the point about Kiefer, that sometimes when you've got him on, he occupies people. I felt Zuma was worried about him then.
Is he like a decoy?
A little bit, and then it allows Dom to... And I'm not being funny, I know it's one game, and I know there's more of a sample size to suggest that Dom isn't your prolific kind of poacher type. That was a proper poacher goal in terms of right place, right time, anticipated it perfectly. He could easily just snapshot that, hit the goalkeeper, and the composure to round him and then finish it off was lovely. And that is, if you were going into the first game of the season, you go, we're going to score one goal in the opening game. Who do you want it to be? We would have all said Dom Solanke, because we need him to start pitching him with goals. I thought he had a really good performance, and I was chuffed for him to finish it. And then, as I kind of said at the start, I think we were the team then looking to win it, but they still had the best moment. Yeah,
that's right. And but that was from our own mistakes. I think it was Chris Mepham who tried to clear the ball with his weaker left foot, I suppose you could say.
Scuffed it straight to Paqueta, didn't it?
Yeah, and I didn't actually realise at the time, but it hit the foot of the post.
Yeah.
And I thought it was some kind of clearance, but that was... That could have been nasty, but then that's sort of leaving ourselves exposed somewhat, because we were willing to attack.
Yes.
And we didn't stop, and as I said on the vlog, the body language of the two managers was very different.
Yes.
I think Moyes was happy to settle for a point, but Iraola wanted to go for it.
Yeah, I think it was like...
see that.
I think it was like 93rd, 94th minute, and the ball went out, and Ando's running to get the ball and telling us to go forward, and you think, we know we can win this now. And equally, as you said there, Mepps' clearance for the chance at the post was an error. But I don't think enough people have realised that when Ings got in down the channel, had a shot, and it looked like he just hit it wide, Mepham gets an unbelievable block on it.
That was really good. What is with Ings' hair, by the way? Has he had a hair transplant?
Yes, he's had the Rooney job.
How like £17,000? I think I read.
I don't know, but yeah, fair play.
He needs a part refund because it didn't. I don't know. I'm sure it's in its regrowth stage, but from my opinion, it looked quite bad.
I don't know what you thought as well. Did you feel like, I could tell from the North Stand, no one really knew whether to boo him or cheer him? Like, it was really odd, because you want to say Scummer, and he's come back and scored for us for Southampton, so you want to shout Scummer, and then you go, he kind of come through our academy and done quite well for us. You're not really sure what to do. It's a bit like when Stevens in the friendly. You don't really know what to do. So then you end up not really doing anything. But I'm always worried about, he scored against Burnley, when he was at Burnley against us as well. I always worry about him because he can just poach. And I think people miss that little block from Mepps that I think was key, because that could have been going in the bottom corner. But yeah, I think on the whole, fair result. I think we looked like the team that wanted to win it, but we've got to counteract that with they probably had the clearer chances.
I said on the vlog that for us, when you look at the team that finished the game, including James Hill, Semenyo, Kluivert, Kirkes, there are other players that I've missed out there that haven't played together before, and we're adopting a new system. When you combine those two factors, really, a draw's all right, considering most of their team have played together and play the David Moyes way. They were just doing exactly the same thing as they've done, a style that won them the Europa Conference League. So really, I don't think it's that bad, but
they're clearer in knowing what they're going to do.
Just
knowing that their best player's not there.
I think it was a fair draw. Like sometimes you can draw a game and you think, we should have snuck that, but then they could have as well. I think I'm happy with it.
Yeah, it's weird now. I think I chatted to a few West Ham fans after the game and stuff. Everyone's the same. Everyone's going fair result, because it was the epitome of a draw. I don't think either team quite done enough to win it. But yeah, as you say, I think that's what you've got to look at as the positives. Is he wants his fullbacks to play a big part, and we had two brand new fullbacks, so that makes a difference. Because Zabani, who I like by the way, hasn't played that many competitive games for Bournemouth.
He had
Remember
a couple
that?
of moments, by the way, didn't he?
He did.
He slipped in the first half. I was thinking, but yeah, you're right. He's young though, isn't he?
He's young. I think he's got a yard of pace, which helps. You always used to say that about Kelly. Sometimes you misplace a pass, but they've got the legs. But yeah, you forget that Zabani hasn't played that many competitive games for us. So that's that's kind of a new partnership that might build at centre half. Rothwell hasn't played in the defensive role before. Billings had to go a little bit deeper because of the injuries. Christie's kind of new to playing central.
Yeah.
Brooksy feels like a new signing. Anthony, like you say, has been looking like he might have to play fullback. Then he's got to be chucked in the left. So yeah, loads of different things, mate. And so I think we've got to look at a lot of positives there. That this is a new, fresh team, and we didn't lose a game despite going behind. And there was a lot more positives than negatives, I think.
When you take a look at our average positions, you can see there that we are pushing higher than we would have last season. And even when the subs came on as well, that definitely enhanced that somewhat. When you compare it to West Ham's very deep lying in comparison with more players in their own half. So, yeah, I think, like early days, signs are good. So, can we do anything at Liverpool? Because their style, they got a very open style. Maybe it's a.
We can score there.
Do you reckon we will?
I think we'll score there. I think we can have some chances there. I think they'll allow us to have some opportunities. But both teams will have chances. It will be like a basketball match, and
it's who's clinical. Who's the more clinical?
I'm not being disrespectful to our own players, of course, but I think I'd rather Mo Salah, Luis Diaz, Jota, Nunez. But. Strange things have happened, mate. But yeah, I think we've all got PTSD anyway. I think I'm just looking at it going Anfield and going, oh my God, don't want to go back there at Anfield in August. But you never know. I think they'll give us opportunities and it will be. I'm just more like I say, it feels a bit bonusy, doesn't it? That we're not expecting to get anything. Obviously, I'm just really intrigued to see how we press without the ball at Anfield. That is the perfect kind of test to see. Right, let's see this chaos. Away from home at Anfield against a top quality side, people like Trent bombing on. Can we expose them on the counter attack? Is this a game for a Kluivert to just go? Oh my God. Trent's gonna get past you a lot, but see if you can catch him on the break. It'll be interesting, mate, and see what he does and what he looks at. But yeah, it's not a game we're expecting anything. I think the week after against Tottenham, maybe. I think we might surprise people in that game. But let's see. Let's go on to Anfield and let's see if we can at least. It'd be interesting to just see if we can come out of it with a lot of credit. You've only got to look at Burnley losing 3-0 at home. You think that's awful. Against City, the way they played, they come out of it with more positives. Yeah, so agreed. Let's see.
By the way, on Sunday morning, thank you so much for sending me your player ratings video. I gather it wasn't just to me though; it was for this kind of closed community.
Yeah, whack it onto the Telegram, mate. For the
Telegram.
Yeah, that's for the monthlies, the people that help us out every month. Yeah. On back of the net.
Look, if you're a back of the net member that just does a one-off payment, we truly appreciate it. For as little as £3, you can help support the channel, support our outgoings, because we've got lots and stuff that we need to pay for. There's an article that tells you exactly what, full transparency. And after every game, Tom posts a player ratings show. And yeah, I thought it was really interesting what you said. We're gonna tease a few comments now. For instance, we talked about the kind of man of the match. There were different men of the match in different places, by the way. Who Scored had Philip as the highest average. I think fans on Twitter said one thing, sponsors said something else. Who was your man of the match, if you had to name one?
I edged it to Milos Kerkez.
Yeah.
I think
he was good, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think there's context in all of this, and I think it's his first competitive game for the club. And I didn't think Jayden had a great game either, as we mentioned. But he's playing against their best player in Jared Bowen. Which you've got to remember. Yes, he's obviously scored a worldie and one actually from that right side. But I think considering he's playing against their main threat, he still managed to bomb on. I just like everything about him in terms of he's got that energy to get forward, a bit like we saw with Viña, a bit like what we saw with Zamora. But I think the difference is he looks like he wants to defend as well.
Yeah.
He looks like he there's a few times where he really enjoys making that block, stopping and get a cross in. And for his first game, 19.
You can sort of tell his mentality is very different. For instance, right, say if we were in Pop World and Kiefer Moore walks past you and knocks your WKD on the floor, he'd be like, oh, well, sorry, mate, I'll buy you another one. Kerkez would just knock it over, look back at you, be like, fuck off. He just wouldn't.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't. He would just carry on. He doesn't care.
A bit nasty about him.
Yeah, and that's that's a good sort of trait to have. And he's a player that, I mean, I don't know what his injury record's like, but sometimes he goes in at full throttle thinking he's
tenacious.
He's really tenacious.
Yeah,
but
I almost think,
I like that.
You said for the bat, I just thought he looked really hungry.
Hey, very good.
That's the first. I promise I'll try and never do that all season now. Just get out of the way. I just edged him man of the match, and I think it was tight between him and Rothwell on most platforms, as you say. I think I do want to make a mention for David Brooks, just because we all know the situation. This is the first time he's had a pre-season. He was the best player over pre-season for me, and I thought there were little moments. We've obviously spoke about the volley, but there were little moments where I thought, he's going to feel like a new signing. He's a clever player. And he, even in some games, I think, could go into that Christie role as well. So big shout out to Brooksy, because I thought he'd done well as well.
Milos Krokes, as Ben Boszak, who's been on the channel recently to talk up our Hungarian starler. He won the most fouls, most duels won for Bournemouth with 10, 6 recoveries, 1 chance created. In his word, so much energy and determination throughout this game. More to come. Definitely. He's just getting started.
And I think the first yellow card of the game was Jarrod Bowen, because it's weird, but Jarrod Bowen done okay and obviously scored a really good goal and is their main threat. But I thought it was interesting as well that he had to do a lot of work the other way because of Krokes, as Ben said there, because of his energy and his determination to do both sides of the game. I think we've got a real player there, mate. But I'll tell you what, it's going to be a big test at Anfield, because he's probably going to be against Mo Salah. Yeah. So if you ever want a bigger test, mate, that's it. But he's a gem, and we have found a gem there, and I'm just so happy we've got him. We talked about Rothwell, that his good dynamism, like boundless levels of energy. Also Semenyo as well. Yeah. Brooks should probably get a mention as well. Hopefully we'll see this improvement game after game as well. And the bad things, I suppose, I mean, we've talked a little bit about the set piece delivery not being particularly brilliant. Any other things that you think, need to work on that? Yeah, it's like I said, I think every part of the game will get better, hopefully. I think the set pieces are key, both ends, because I think defending them, we don't look comfortable. And then there was one time in the second half where we got a corner and everyone around me was buzzing, and I kind of sat there and thought, do you really expect us to do something from a set?
Oh, by the way, I watched Match of the Day back, right? And you know when Rothwell hits the bar?
Yep.
There's an angle. There's a camera angle.
I know what you're going to say, yeah. And I don't move.
You don't move. You don't move at all.
I think for some reason
could you see the trajectory meant that it wasn't going in?
Well, for some reason, it's weird, because when I look back at it, I go, it does look really. But when I was sat there, I thought that's over. And then when it did, I thought, well, it's still not going to dip enough, so I just didn't move. Yeah, I just stayed sat down.
Yeah,
I looked quite miserable, didn't I?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it was the same shot, but regular on the channel, Livy Williams as well.
Oh yeah, she gets caught.
She's like, yeah, and you're just sort of unmoved.
Yeah, I think.
Hopefully, you threw some limbs when Solanke equalised. I hope so.
Yeah, of course. But I think in that moment, I thought it was going over. I think the Scummers might have just got a goal. I think it was a bad moment to catch me on the camera there for sure.
You're doing this thing like you did last season in terms of when you have a drink, say pre-match or whatever. If it's a football-related beverage, you're making a chart. I think you should also do another chart as well. How many people walk past you referencing, you didn't miss a goal then, or 38 minutes or something like that, because that seems to happen everywhere you go. 38 minutes, Tom.
I have yet to miss a goal this season. Nothing happened, did it really? I don't think anything really happened. But I'll tell you what, it's a good job we weren't away. Like away sometimes where it's really busy and then you come up 5 minutes after Bowen scored just after 5 minutes today, but I was at home, but I'm always up for the second half. But yeah, I didn't miss, I think I missed a Jarrod Bowen yellow card, that was about it.
Did you feel, after they did score, were you almost still in the Gary O'Neill mindset now? No, I don't want any disrespect on Gary O'Neill's name, but usually when a team took the lead against us, especially at home, it seemed that there was just no way back. I must admit, when Bowen scored, I was in that mindset still.
Yeah, and what I liked is, obviously, as we mentioned, Senesi's one was forced, but it felt so quick after they scored that Andy went, right, we need to change something. Yeah. And it quickly changed personnel, but also just everyone. We mentioned it briefly. Rothwell going, right, yes, you've got to be a little bit aware, but drive forward a bit more, mate. We've got to take risks now, and they're not going to come onto us anymore now, are they? They barely did anyway. So yeah, I like the reaction. It was quite quick. I felt 5 minutes after the goal, I suddenly thought, no, we can get something here. And when the 6 minutes went up at the end, I wanted more. And that says it all.
Exactly.
That says it all. And we said it already, but they were thinking, let's just finish the game with a draw now. So.
What did you make of his post-match comments? A lot of fans that I've seen have said, yeah, finally they are saying the same things that I think as well, rather than quite often last season we would be thinking one thing and then the managerial sound bites coming out would be completely different. He seemed to tessellate with what the fans thought.
Yep, he said we're better second half, and he also said we didn't deserve to win. He said it wasn't a great game. You know, he's quite honest about it, wasn't he? But he knows we need some bodies, and I think really, like you say, he was trying to obviously win the game at the end, which was nice to see. But I think really he's probably looking back on it and going, we weren't at the levels I want us to be at. We're not quite where I want us to be yet, as I probably didn't expect us to be because it's the first game of the season, and we haven't lost. And I think that's important. I think we'll look back on that and go, actually, you know what? That was a decent point to start the season, and we'll kick off from there. It's just the fixtures on paper that don't look nice. But I tell you what, last season we beat Liverpool. Yep. Last season we beat Tottenham. Don't worry about it.
Happy days. If you're new to the channel, we would truly appreciate it if you supported us by hitting that subscribe button. It's a new, shorter second look this season. We tried to keep it to half an hour, mate. We probably did about 35 minutes, so it's not too bad. Of course, if you're listening to this on the audio pod, you'd have had the joys of hearing the fans react outside Dean Court as well. If you would rather listen than watch our beautiful faces, then just search for Back of the Net on your favourite podcast app, or check out our website at afcbpodcast.com. Coming up on this channel, wow, Premier League show tomorrow, mate. Yeah. Going to be really interesting. Gary O'Neill's side are playing at the moment. We're going to be talking about everything that went on in the Premier League. Plus, I'm sure we'll touch on Gary O'Neill's appointment. I'm certain that will be tomorrow. We've got the panel on Wednesday, and then it's all about the Liverpool game with an opposition preview, and then what's the weather like next weekend, mate? Is it all right? We're going to be sunning it outside Arkles.
No, it looks pretty rank at the moment, but it might change.
I hope so. Thank you so much for watching or listening. It's been a pleasure. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries.